And also we're going live on Facebook. All right, so we're live. Thank you very much for attending today's session. We highly appreciate everybody's presence here. So we have an interesting dialogue series presentation by Dr. Ghanem Elhersh. Ghanem he was a doctoral candidate in the School of Media Arts and Studies, and he recently defended his dissertation. He's an active member of the TeamSMART since 2018, actually. So his area of expertise centers on studying the entertainment industry in general and storytelling, stereotypes, and new media studies. He particularly investigates the representation of minorities, politics, and culture in new media employing qualitative and analytics research methodologies. Ghanem is recipient of multiple awards during his academic journey, including Graduate Grant Award at OU 2021, Outstanding Graduate Student Award at Arkansas State University 2018, Outstanding Graduate Thesis Award at Arkansas State University 2018. So Ghanem is also a member of Kappa Tau Alpha, the National Journalism and Mass Communication Honorary 2018. His accomplishments are many, and I just named a few of them, and I'll be posting this on the hopefully on the Facebook page as well. So I don't want to keep you waiting. I'll go ahead and hand over the mic to Ghanem, who can go ahead and share his screen, and we can go ahead from there.
Sure. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Ghanem Elhersh. Thank you, Dr. Khan, for this introduction, and also thank you all for being here today. It's my pleasure to be here again in the SMART Lab to present another research paper where I will be talking about my dissertation that I defended recently. Well, actually, the story behind this dissertation is all about my passion and interest in animation. As a Muslim and a Middle Eastern, I have always been a big fan of foreign animation imported from Western countries and Japan. And actually, I grew up watching foreign animation, and personally, I learned the modern English alphabet and numbers based on my consumption of foreign animation. And it actually affected my feelings, emotion, imagination in an unimaginable way, particularly Disney. However, researching the representation of others and minorities in media and social media platforms actually is the focal point for my research interest. And this dissertation aimed actually to contribute to the current body of knowledge in media representation by investigating the image of Arabs and Muslims in Disney animated films. And as you can see, my dissertation titled Arabs and Muslims in Disney animated films, a mixed methods approach to understand film content and IMDb reviews. A brief roadmap about my talk. I will introduce the topic briefly, and then I will pinpoint my key areas in the literature review as well as my research questions. And then I will talk in details about the mixed methods approach employed in this study and the main findings. And then I will conclude by providing practical implications and the future directions. Well, throughout the history of academic mass communication research, scholars have kind of an agreement that the media old and the new affect the audience in different ways. However, when it comes to media representation, in their pioneering work, scholars such as Lippmann, Goffman, Intman, and Asher demonstrate that the representation of the other is actually problematic. It constructed images that carry ideological connotations. And cultural scholarship has often demonstrated that news and entertainment media stereotype non-white, non-elite groups and other minorities by excluding them from coverage and or by offering a limited range of representations. Forsage 2010 actually stated that since representation can produce shared cultural meaning, problematic that is limited, representation can give negative consequences for political and social decision making and can be implicated in sustaining social and political inequalities. Representations of the other ethnic, racial, or sexual minorities, international others, have become a focal point of cultural and media studies. Therefore, due to the ability of media in preparing, organizing, focusing, or highlighting specific cultural elements about a particular issue in a mediated text, studying and analyzing media content is crucial. It would help us understand the messages and information, whether it's latent or manifested, produced by any given medium. To narrow the talk down a little bit, I'm focusing on the current study. Actually, a large body of literature has already conducted to investigate the portrayal of Arabs and Muslim in Western media, including in newspapers, magazines, TV shows, live action films, and even advertisements, while ignoring other important production genres such as animation. The findings of those literature actually reveal that Arabs and Muslims portrayed in different stereotypes, including, but are not limited to, uncivilian, political loaded, violent, sexist, unpredictable, misogyny people, and in some cases racist. And to be very clear, actually, the only thing that I'm aware of that studied the Arabs in animation film is Aladdin, 1992, and the finding that of Aladdin cannot be generalized to the huge history of animation in Western countries. So to bridge this gap, the present dissertation actually contributes to the existing body of knowledge by examining the portrayal of Arabs in US animation, particularly Disney animation, which is the most popular entertainment history all over the world. Animation is subtly influences culture as it contributes to the cultural industry through symbols and signs. Therefore, it's vital to understand how it presents Arabs and Muslims and what kind of messages actually are embedded in its content for them. Particularly, Disney scholars actually argue that Disney representation must be re-examined periodically because advancing technology has made Disney even more powerful and accessible than ever before all over the world. So this dissertation sought actually to provide a holistic understanding of the issue, first exploring the representation of Arabs and Muslim in Disney animated films, and if there is a negative portrayal in line with other media genres, then it aims actually to investigate the public audience opinion and thoughts about the films produced by Disney. So just to look about the whole communication process, Disney from the production process and then to the audience, how they perceive those films. The research purpose actually for this study, by examining the selected Disney animated films, I aim to first understand the most prominent frames of Arabs in Disney animated films, and then explore how Disney animated films actually frame Arabs in terms of violence, terrorism, and sexism. Investigate if there is a realization among Disney online audiences, IMDb reviews, and I will talk about this later, of possible negative depictions of Arabs and the story patterns assigned to them. When it comes to the literature review, actually, I have reviewed the most relevant literature in my study, and they are under the following areas. Those are the main key areas of my literature review. The presented literature actually not only provides an overview of the critical results of the previous work, but also it actually helped me to identify the gaps and inconsistencies of the current knowledge, and therefore to pinpoint my research questions and the other key findings in my studies that I will mention shortly. Therefore, my research questions are: what frames are most prominently used by Disney to portray Arabs? How Arabs portrayed in terms of violence and terrorism in Disney animated films? How are Arabs actually portrayed in terms of sexism as well? And is there a realization among online audiences whether the negative portrayal of Arabs in Disney animated films is problematic? So research methods, again, as I mentioned, I employed a mixed methods research in order to achieve the research purposes and answer the research questions with a sufficient depth and breadth. A mixed method convergent parallel design was employed. It's also known as the concurrent design. And this design, actually the combination of two or more different methods from differing research paradigms within a single study would strengthen the contribution of these two methods beyond the sum of their parts. Thus, this approach was adopted in this dissertation to attain a complementary set of results that would complement one another and therefore led to a better understanding of the study's overall finding. Therefore, a framing analysis approach alongside a quantitative textual analysis were employed to enhance the study's breadth and depth. And as you can see in this paradigm, this is the paradigm actually I created in order to map the methods I used. In this study, it illustrates the two main phases, framing analysis approach and the quantitative textual analysis. And it maps again to illustrate the process of sampling, selection, data collection, and analysis and interpretation carried out in this study. In the left side, you can see phase one, the qualitative framing analysis. The right side is the quantitative textual analysis by analyzing IMDb reviews. In the phase one framing analysis, just a word or two about framing. I don't want to spend much time talking about framing, but you know, framing, of course, comes from sociology and psychology. Erving Goffman, you know, frames help us to navigate the complexity of life experience. It's also a tool that explains how people understood their societies and events happening in their community. And then I talk about, of course, Entman, who's probably, in terms of media studies and mass communication theory, is one of the big ones, right? Who talks a lot about his argument with the framing is that it doesn't just highlight certain things. No, media does more than that. It helps us make judgments and make sense, more suggestions actually about things might be remediated. So when the media actually select aspects of reality, they are doing more than just showing us certain facts. They are making their implications in the way frames are made in a mediated text. So in this context, when it comes to cultural schemas, for example, you know, in the broader context, I'm saying here, Arabs and Muslims have been associated with negative portrayals over the years, and that shaped the perceptions that's out there as they are terrorist and violent. So that's like the bias of different frames that shaped the general perceptions. So that's part of why I choose framing as my theoretical lens, because I'm trying to understand if Arabs and Muslims have been framed in a certain way over the years by the media, yet we have this public overall that's fully negative. So what's about and what's that means? That actually means that I am curious about everyday people that and what they are saying and what they do and what the media have to tell us and how we can fill in and create a broader picture where not it may just be empty. So in data collection, and to collect and analyze relevant data for this phase, actually several online search were used, including Google, Safari, YouTube, IMDb, and Disney Plus, following by using the following keywords: Arabs, desert, Islam, Disney and Islam, Disney and Arabs, Islamophobia, Bedouin, Sheikh, tourism, sexism. And of course, those keywords were identified as key elements in the current literature. And detailed procedures for the data analysis will be presented right now. Actually, generally speaking, the quantitative framing analysis was based on careful viewing and descriptive note-taking of the elements of each film. The process also involved identification of the keywords, metaphors, concepts, symbols, visuals in each film. So the process was done by employing the following steps. The first step, actually, setting the stage. In this stage, I gathered the 10 selected films and I viewed them one by one with a fresh mind and without preconceptions in order to avoid bias and prejudgments, without note-taking as well, just to double check that I have the correct sample and that they do include Arab characters, stories, or Arab cultural elements as well. In the second stage, that's watching the films and identifying related elements. This stage was taken in details. First, I fully viewed the film, the whole films again, one by one, to identify Arabs and Muslim elements in each film, including their appearance in the scene, garments, behavioral, their rule, frames associated with them, and etc. This has been done following a very common technique used by filmmakers, explicitly or implicitly. Explicitly means when the narration clearly gives facts about the characters and the story, or implicitly where the characters are revealed by what they say and do, and by element associated with them in a way or another in any given scene. Following that, in the third stage, actually, I focused only on the scenes and aspects that specify the presence of Arabs and Muslim. Specifically, I viewed the film again one by one in a focused way alongside taking descriptive note-taking for each film. In phase 2, quantitative textual analysis, actually also known computational text analysis, it refers to the process of analyzing text data using statistical procedures. In conducting quantitative text analysis, researchers usually use automated and systematic methods to process large amount of text. For example, a number of large policy documents can be processed using data science to identify the different types of words and topics embedded in these documents. The methods also can be conducted on a single document or a number of different text documents. For instance, that could include social media posts such as Twitter feeds, Facebook posts, YouTube comments, blogs, and so on. Also in this regard, a very well-known cultural theorist, Christian Fuchs, in 2017 stated that social data analytics research or big data analytics is a new trend of research that focuses on collecting, analyzing, and visualizing a large amount of online data in a predominantly quantitative manner. Sampling and data collection for the second phase, actually I use, again, because I'm doing a mixed method design, integration in this design happened in 2 phases. Phase 1 was sampling, because in second phase, I'm using the same sample, but I am collecting another type of data, which is the IMDb reviews, and integration happened happened in the interpretation process as well. So to collect relevant data for this stage, I manually collected online audience comments and reviews on the selected Disney animated films in phase 1 from the Internet Movie Database, IMDb. This website actually is a very popular online platform for film audiences to evaluate, identify, recommended, and rate films. It's one of the most significant and popular sites that comprise information regarding films. It can also be shown in the following table. Actually, a total of 1,230 reviews of the 10 films were collected, and it illustrates the runtime, IMDb ratings, as well as the number of reviews collected in each of the 10 Disney animated films. The website actually comprises more than 8 million titles as well, so it's very, very, very popular. Data analysis, data cleaning, and actually processing in the second phase was done in order to have a more structured and consistent data, because such comments and reviews online, they are unstructured data. So in doing so, all emojis, hyperlinks, numbers, punctuations, and special symbols were removed. I also converted all the letters in the data into lower cases, and many stop words such as a, and, you, we, etc. were omitted. Main findings, data analysis. In this stage, actually, the quantitative textual analysis was performed using two different analytics tools, Voyant Tools and Leximancer, version 4.5. Voyant Tools actually is a free open access website for a text-based analysis to summarize and visualize and understand a text data. In other words, the website offers a varied and sophisticated text visualization capabilities, beneficial actually to visually represent a mass amount of text data. Leximancer as well is a very important software, uses proximity values to ensure artificial learning and text mining. This process is a thoughtful and systematic way to analyze and visualize an extensive amount of text data. Talking about the main findings of this study and answering actually the first research questions about the most prominent frames used by Disney to represent Arab, behavioral frame and violence frames actually were identified as the representative frames of Arabs and Muslims in Disney animation. The behavioral frame refers to the idea of representing a character or a given group of people or a community actually based on stereotypical behaviors. And those stereotypical elements and behaviors were identified explicitly and implicitly, which is a common technique used by filmmakers, as I mentioned previously. Likewise, Disney utilized violent framing when displaying Arabs and Muslims to identicate violence as a nature actually attitudes associated with them whenever they appear in many instances. And as I don't want to talk about a lot about the instances as there are many actually, these are two examples. And the first one actually in the short Disney animated films, A Good Time for a Dime, that's 1941, a behavioral frame explicitly and implicitly portrayal Arabs where the behavioral frame reveals a cultural practice, a veil wearing by Arab female when dancing in the desert using a mask, only a mask as a background of the scene, and it was the only building appear. In the second example, as you can see, in the film The King of Thieves, 1996, Disney explicitly and implicitly used violence behavioral frames to portray those men as Arabs who are trying to attack the people attending Jasmine and Aladdin's wedding. Here also some instances of Disney representation of Arabs. As you can see, the film Small One in the 70s, The Return of Jafar, 1996, as well as Alice in the Wonder, which is 1950. As I recall. So those are some examples of how Disney present Arab characters and how the behavioral and violence frames appear in my dissertation. In regard to the second and third research questions concerning the portrayal of Arabs in terms of violence, terrorism, and sexism, almost all, unfortunately, all selected Disney animated films present Arabs as violent and sexism. And I have presented several examples in my dissertation. Okay. For the fourth research question that dwells on the audience realization of the representation of Arabs based on IMDb reviews posted online. As I mentioned previously, two different software were used to investigate the collected reviews. I just would like to mention that 1,239 reviews were revealed, and the number of reviews were about like more than 500 pages. So it wasn't just a brief comment in each review. No, it was a very detailed reflection of the films they watched. By performing the analysis of Bayern tools, the following words cloud was created. A word cloud is a visual representation of the text that's based on the frequency with which a particular word appears. It's also a tool of reflecting, examining what's being said or discussed. It's also a visually enhanced image of written reflection to promote critical thinking. So it's a very important way to present data. For details analysis of the collected reviews also performed using Voyant as well, that embedded to identify collocates, which is an illustration of the main concept and their relation to each other in the corpus with a frequency greater than chance, as you can see in the figures presented. The size of each term reveals a frequency, and lines between the concepts denote their association. The term Aladdin, IMDb reviews reported a major elements in Aladdin animated films. For the collected corpus, reviews associated with Jasmine, magic, production, and movie. Reviewers' comments on Aladdin were positively associated with the movie as a production process. They did not talk about Arabs. Likewise, the second figure depicts the collocates for original and magic unique terms. Both words were associated with one another or other terms in the corpus. In their comments, most IMDb reviews expressed their opinion on Disney movies using words such as production, movie, entertainment, Disney magic, magic, and original. Continuing talking about the results revealed in phase 2, concept mapping, actually. Leximancer was used due to its ability to analyze a text-based data, as I mentioned, on a statistical algorithm and corpus linguistic observation. The software created a powerful visualization map of meaningful themes and to present the relationship between them in the concept from the text data. As you can see, 6 main themes emerged: Aladdin, original Disney, Disney magic, Disney music, entertainment to production, and animate. And those, you can see also the concept that identified or clusters each film. For Aladdin, for instance, we do have Robin Williams characters, Genie, life story, Jasmine, old, young things, scenes, and so on. Those are the main concept actually identified the theme. This concept map actually illustrates the visualization as that I just talked about, and the major themes emerged, and you can see the themes that clusters the main theme here as well. For Disney Magic, for instance, you can see segment, classic, Fantasia, different animation themes. For Disney Original, some concepts, as you can see, are children, animate, production, Disney, classic, original, and it's kind of make sense that the original Disney, because we do have some concept like classic, watch, favorites, probably original, and so on. And if you can notice here, those concepts related to the findings revealed in Voyant tools, meaning that using the same data and different softwares would reveal a reliable data, because the main terms identified in Voyant teams as well as in Leximancer. Before the end, actually some practical implications and future directions. Overall, Disney animated films heavily, unfortunately, depict Arabs and Muslim, which resulted in the development of a negative image stereotypes, segmentations, and being viewed as inferior. Arabs and Muslim communities, as well as human rights groups, should be provocative actually to help create a better image. And Disney should also invest in animation and content from other parts of the world. The world has become a global village, and the human interactions are becoming more rapid than ever seen before. So it's very important to be mindful, at the very least, in presenting the others. Here, I would like to mention a couple of actually news articles that caught my attention. One of them was published in 1996, and the other one just very recently, February 16th, 2022. The first one talked about Arabs protested at Disney studio after releasing Aladdin, The Return of Jafar, and The King of Thieves in the 90s, and they just talking about their images. So the story has a long history. And in 2022, one filmmaker actually trying to say that we need to create our content, because he is working in Hollywood actually with white filmmakers, and he tried to normalize the image of Arabs to be just realistic a little bit, but he identified they are working on focusing on some elements such as violence, terrorism in a 2022 production. So the process is still going, and the negative portrayals in different media genres is still happening. And hopefully this can be changed within the time, because audience are more active than ever before, and they can make their decision and be mindful to the others. Thank you so much for listening to my research talk, and I would be happy to listen to your comments, feedback, and any questions that you may have. I will return it to you, Dr. Khan.
Thank you very much, Ghanem. That was a very insightful presentation. We got to learn a great deal from hearing about what Disney and the related comments and IMDb reviews reveal about representation of Muslims and Arabs in popular media. I'll open the floor for questions. You're welcome to ask any questions to Ghanem.
Okay, there's someone who raised their hand. I'll let them go. Sahar?
Sahar, please go ahead.
Yes, hello everyone. I want to really say that is a great job, Ghanem. Very well done. I really enjoyed your presentation. And the theme of the portrayal, or the misportrayal, I should say, and misrepresentation of Arabs in the media, in Western media, is something that's very important to study. I am myself a professor of communication of, how can we possibly improve or work on improving this misrepresentation and this type of bad portrayal of Arabs in Western media, especially in terms of having more, voices from the Arab world represented in a much better way in Western media. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khamis, for your insightful feedback. I really appreciate it. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, I have a quick one. Congratulations, Ghanem, and really this was definitely exemplary, and I appreciate you talking a little bit about your integration, but I'm a bit curious about your process of integration, and particularly with the overall finding of the study. Could you speak a little bit to your integration process?
Yes, thank you so much. The integration process actually happened in 2 stages. The first one, sampling, selection, as I mentioned, but the most important one is interpretation. Well, after presenting the result of the first phase, framing analysis, as well as the result of the second phase, quantitative textual analysis, in my discussion, I combined the result of those 2 stages in order to make sense about the whole communication process of how Disney presents, what kind of messages are presented by Disney, and then how Western audiences received or perceived those messages, and then make sense about them, since they are writing like a lot of reviews about each films. So integration happened after, like, okay, this is the message presented by Disney, and this is how the Western audiences receive them. So unfortunately, there is no realization that those messages are problematic, which means that we have to highlight them in any way or another in order to make sure, okay, this is the production are great, high quality, but the kind of messages presented are problematic. Hopefully this answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
you. Any other questions? Dr. Sahar, your hand is raised, so I wonder if you have any other questions. Okay.
I think it's from before.
Faustina, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you. Is it Dr. Ghanem? Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, no, thank you for your study. And honestly, I watch a lot of Disney movies, so I'm familiar with it. And until listening to you, I hadn't paid attention to that. So I just wanted to reiterate what you just said about how problematic the labeling is. And I just wanted to add that this is a very important and critical study that you have done, and to encourage you to really push the advocacy. Because until paying attention to your study, I hadn't thought about it. You know, we just most of the time consume these movies for the fun of it. But we don't realize how the labeling is also shaping our stereotypes or positionalities when it comes to cultural, ethnic, understanding. So thank you. And I just want to send you more energy and to encourage you to push this advocacy, because I think it's important. And whatever you can do, especially being in this space, to get Disney to speak to it or to work towards changing. But I think this is critical. It's important. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
I don't know, did anything in your looking at the reviews and going through the movies, were there any reactions to Disney going back and retroactively changing things in the movies to make them a little more, I don't know, don't know if acceptable is the right term, but like in the original Aladdin, the song Arabian Nights, they actually went back and changed the lyrics.
Yes, actually, you are right. The only thing I am aware of is that changing the lyrics in Aladdin, but they change everything, and unless except one word, barbaric. Barbaric still exists, which means, it has very negative implication. Even after changing the lyrics, people, again, I said in this news article in Los Angeles Times, where they protested, asking to Disney to be mindful about their images. But still the word barbaric still exists. So
yeah.
Thank you, Jesse. I think I was going to ask the same thing. So for example, when you mentioned this very set of lyrics in the movie Aladdin, what was it that was problematic? If you could share with the audience who may not be aware, so what kind of lyrics were there that needed to be changed? And even when they were changed, the word barbaric was not removed, which I feel is very unacceptable. So if you can share that, Ghanem, that'll be wonderful.
yes, for sure. I don't remember it exactly, but it says that, okay, welcome, it's home, where people, they will cut their noise if you come, something like that. And by the way, this is home, it's barbaric. And they were mentioning very violent people in the desert with camels. So let me just Google it for a second, maybe.
Okay, I think I found it.
Okay.
This is sort of what I see here is, I come from a land, from a faraway place, where the caravan camels roam, where it's flat and immense, and the heat is intense. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home. And this was previously, as I understand, if you can share, was this different?
Yes, actually, they changed everything. They just this is it's barbaric, it's home. This is the only thing they did not change.
I think they also mentioned that they cut off your ears or something.
Yes,
I think that was changed,
that's
but
right.
the word barbaric was not changed.
Right.
And I think that's enough to paint a very negative picture of the entire community, especially when kids are watching it at that age. And this is, like Ghanem was mentioning, a global phenomena. We've grown up watching Disney, and it's been very exciting, but these problems have not been addressed as they should have been, in being sensitive to other people's culture and their image. And I think that's a very insightful research that Ghanem presented. I
dropped the lyrics in the chat if anyone wants to look at the actual
that would be great. Yeah. I think we have Chris. Do you have a question, Dr. Matchmas?
I did. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for your presentation. And I really loved it. I love the way you mixed your methods. I think that is important. And I think every time we do a really good job at doing this, we need to share this out more, because I don't think that as a whole, this is just me, see that those individuals in the fields that all of you are in understand methods very well. And it's shameful, because I think the research maybe would be valued more instead of the way it's approached now. But I'd love to also know, like the word barbaric. I mean, if they were going to remove anything, why not remove that one word, because it's ugly. And then the other comment I had is, what is your takeaway from here? How can we start as those who want to support this and want to make the changes? Do we start with cartoons for little ones? Do we start in just movies that adults watch? I mean, how do we start making this change, and how can we maybe lay down some steps to implement it? Because, it's just, I always want to know what can we move forward with, and how this is addressed. Even from, I look sometimes at college websites and things, and they don't do a very good job of depicting various populations as a whole. And so now I'm wondering, where should we go? What is your advice for all of us that want to be part of the change?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Matchmas, for this insightful comments. Actually, first of all, for the word barbaric, they did not change it. Okay, I believe because it's still problematic, and they still want to highlight specific elements, specific cultural elements, because this is why I chose framing analysis as my theoretical lens, to look at actually those specific images, whether it's latent or manifested in any given medium. So it's Disney's problem to leave the word exist, actually. And for some advices, in my opinion, and based on my experience in this field, actually, I believe starting with kids is a very good point and a very good idea, because from where the kids get their information, they watch the media, their parents, their friends, schools. So and most of them actually, especially these days, they watch animation a lot. I mean, so as it happens to me, I mean, I learned the modern English alphabets by watching foreign animation. So they listen, see how people looks like, how they dress. So starting with children, and for the big production companies such as Disney is in all over the world. It's very popular. So they can actually have Arab and Muslim filmmakers in order to help identify the images and how they are presented, and they can use those expertise in order to create a healthy content, how I called it. As well as this can be replicated to other media outlets as well, news, journalism, advertisement, and so on.
Right. I agree with that. And I think one of the things, we're seeing so many different indigenous populations, so many different things going on, unfortunately, that the war has brought out, which, but what I'm thinking is it would be great to have people who are reviewing these movies be of the culture that the movie is about, instead of somebody like me reviewing it. And I think that all these little changes need to take place, but we can't wait another 10 years. We need to have them taking place now. So again, thank you very much. I always learn so much. I appreciate it.
Agree. I think I have a question.
Yes. First of all, Ghanem, thank you so much for successfully defending your dissertation, and also for this very insightful topic that you just presented. So personally, I've also learned a lot. I had a question about the lyrics. It has been taken care of, so I won't repeat it again. But now I'm looking at the reviewers. because maybe you mentioned it and I missed it out in terms of how they are reviewing, because already we can see that there are negative perceptions and from the framing. But now what is the impact on the reviewers? Did you see any reviewers who are trying to come up with proposals for counter narratives against the negative perceptions that have been created by these animations? And perhaps what kind of reviewers were they, those who are actually going against this kind of framing?
Yes, this is a very great and clear question. I agree. Actually, the reviewers, unfortunately, they did not mention Arabs and Muslims as they are not part of the content. They only focused on the production process, meaning that they were curious about the music, characters, the quality of the production, but they did not talk about the story itself. So this is why my fourth research questions actually asked if there is a realization by Disney online audiences about the representation of Arabs and Muslims, as we all know. I mean, as I identified in the first phase, there are so many negative stereotypes, but I was looking for if the online audiences realize those images and talk about them. So they did not actually realize. They also talked about the production process and about their identity. Most of them, they are filmmakers actually. You can, like, if you can take a look, you can see, okay, some of them cameramans, some of them fans, some of them producers actually, and they provide a huge comments. It's just not just like a sentence or two, some of them like pages. So the total pages actually for the reviews, I believe more than 500 pages. That's why I did not include them in my appendixes as well. So
I think I now understand, but maybe this other question is not the focus of your dissertation, but maybe you as a scholar in that area, because now I'm thinking in terms of countering these kind of things. Is there, I know, for example, Al Jazeera, when Al Jazeera came, it came because it wanted to counter the Western hegemony. So is there any producers, maybe from the Arab world, who are coming up with animations that can positively bring out these issues, but targeting the Western audience?
This is a very great question, actually. I actually researched the animation industry in the Arab world in my master's thesis. It was about the animation industry in Arab world. Unfortunately, it's in its infant stage. There is no much animation in the Arab world. Speaking of 22 countries, some of them, they are rich countries such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. But unfortunately, we did not reach the world stage yet in terms of animation. There are some individuals, they are just some individuals following their passion and doing so, some animators. So yes, there should be messages from their world in terms of animation, or it could be research actually, or people speak about the wrong when it's wrong. But for now, there is no animation industry clearly can reach the world stage and present themselves before presenting Western stories.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. As a follow-up to Dr. Adre's question, so in this regard, how can the problem be rectified or even not repeated?
Say that again, please.
How do you recommend the problem to be rectified from an industry perspective or not repeated?
Well, the good thing is that's why we do criticize media. So hopefully the message will be received in order to be mindful in creating other content. And their world, I mean, actually, the good thing for me, I was like thinking to gauge the Arabs audience's perspectives about these images, but unfortunately, I did not find any websites for them that include their comments or feedbacks about such thing. Survey could be a solution in order to gauge their understanding of the issue. But for now, that's why I aim to focus on Western audiences and how they perceive these messages. And hopefully by including, it's all about diversity and inclusion, by including like diverse group of workers in any organization would help to enhance the quality of the production, especially the story and the content.
Awesome. As out of curiosity though, do you know if like in Arabian countries, whether they watch these animations or it's predominantly here in, in the United States and other parts?
Well, actually they do. I am one of them. When I was a child, I grew up watching animation, Western animation, particularly Disney, actually, because unfortunately, we don't have a quality animation industry yet. So most channels still aiming to import foreign animation content because it's less expensive. So this is the best thing they can do in order to fill the gap for content for children by importing foreign animation. So yes, a lot of Arabs, I guarantee that they do watch animation a lot, and Muslims for sure in other countries.
Thank you. Wow. You have a lot of work to do.
Okay. All right, I think we have time for one more question. I see a hand raised by Agri.
I'm sorry, I should have brought it down, but anyway, I'm going to ask. I don't want to assume. I looked at the keywords that you used for data collection, and one of them interesting. I know probably because of geographical location, but I was trying to imagine if I remove all the other keywords and I make use of desert, which is one of your keyword, did you combine it with another word or just desert to bring out some of the things that you wanted to study?
This is a good question, actually. Again, all the keywords were identified from the literature, and desert like repeated a lot, actually. Even in an Aladdin movie, in the lyrics, you can see desert. So it is kind of a cultural aspect, always desert related, desert and camels actually related to Arabs in some way or another. So it was one of the key elements to identify the films, to be honest. And it wasn't easy, by the way, the process of identifying the films, because some films just include a scene or two, and the films like 16 minutes and just one scene or two that include Arab characters such as Alice in the Wonder. Hopefully this answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I just want to conclude with one remark here in reference to a question that came. So since I was very much involved with this dissertation, I can testify to the fact that in terms of the implications of this research, I think it's very important, as evident from the reviews on IMDb, that there was no realization whatsoever about the issues in those kind of representations or negative representations, stereotyping, such as the use of the word barbaric still remains there, even now at this moment. And that's a very sad reality that we're dealing with. And of course, this might lead to a lot of negative consequences for the Arabs and Muslims around the world, especially when they're represented in this manner in the media. So one thing that I would encourage, and I think that would be one way to look at this, would be that there needs to be a very proactive attitude from the people who are understanding of this. So those who know that this is a problem, they should comment, they should write, they should tweet, they should actually post comments on their movie reviews and add to that understanding. So if there is silence on this issue, obviously it's not going to be any better anytime soon. But if people are proactive in sharing their understanding, and I'm sure there are lots of people who feel that nobody should be demonized in such a manner. So hopefully, this research would create that level of understanding and a realization that something needs to be done about it. So thank you. I thank you again, Ghanem, for this wonderful presentation. Very insightful, very interesting. We got to learn a great deal from this, and I'm sure the audience agrees. The kind of comments that are coming, it's a pleasure to read them. Thank you all. So we'll meet you again for the Smart Dialogue series in about 2 weeks' time, same place. So stay tuned with all the updates on our social. Thank you. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great.